confused negotiations in Washington around the economic stimulus plan. The Trump administration continued to negotiate an economic stimulus package with Democrats on Thursday, but confusion reigned over the White House's intentions, between targeted aid for airlines in particular, and a larger plan. "I think we have a very good chance of doing something," the U.S. president assured Thursday morning on Fox Business News, reporting very productive discussions. Donald Trump has thus radically changed his tone after brutally announcing, 2 days earlier, the end of negotiations, postponed until after the election on November 3. This decision had provoked dismayed reactions and strong criticism, including in his own camp. He then backtracked and proposed targeted measures for air transport or small businesses, very affected by the COVID-19 crisis. He also wants more checks sent to Americans. Thursday morning, he even raised the possibility of an agreement broader than that of the airlines. But the White House's position was reframed in the afternoon. "We have been very clear that we want a reduced envelope," said Director of Communications Alyssa Farah. She again insisted on targeted measures with direct checks to households, extending loans to small and medium-sized businesses, and seeing an airline bailout, but apart from a larger plan. Contradictions. Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, who leads negotiations with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, warned that it was out of the question that aid to air transport was not dissociated from a plan to wider stimulus. Ms. Pelosi and Mr. Mnuchin chatted for 40 minutes on Thursday afternoon, the spokesperson for the premier wrote on Twitter, adding that the purpose of the conversation was to determine whether or not he exists. A chance to quickly find an agreement on a broad plan. According to him, Steven Mnuchin was very clear on the fact that the president wants an agreement of this type, which unfortunately contradicted the words of the Director of Communication of the White House. Aid to the aviation sector must make it possible to avoid the tens of thousands of layoffs announced by the companies. Airlines have faced a drop in activity since the start of the pandemic. Many international travel restrictions are still in place and they are struggling to get domestic passengers back on their planes as the pandemic is not over. With less than 4 weeks to go, the massive layoffs would cast a new shadow on Donald Trump's record, campaigning for re-election and already behind in the polls against his Democratic competitor, Joe Biden. Wall Street at its highest. The stock market, dear to Donald Trump, seemed to believe in a deal, and Wall Street ended the day in the green, with the Dow Jones even at its highest in more than a month. Even the airlines resisted. The adoption of this new aid plan has become an important electoral issue, with each side fearing that the other will take credit for it. However, this aid is essential to allow the world's largest economy to recover from the damage caused by COVID-19. They have to bring new money into the coffers of small businesses to pay their workers and avoid bankruptcy. For the most vulnerable households, who are struggling to pay their rents and bills, a new check would be a breath of fresh air. Direct aid would also help stimulate consumer spending, a traditional growth engine. Before the pandemic, the economy was Donald Trump's greatest asset. But since then, the situation has changed. And the unemployment rate, at 7.9% in September, has never been higher in the run-up to a U.S. presidential election. The country has nearly 11 million unemployed, and even 25 million by adding those who are not eligible for unemployment benefits, but receive assistance after seeing their income fall.